That year was 2018, a time when my life felt like it had fallen into a bottomless pit. 4 years of being with someone I once considered my everything collapsed just like that, leaving a huge hole that seemed to suck away every part of me. It felt like losing my compass. Just waking up in the morning had become a struggle, while the world outside kept moving without waiting for me. Mornings were the hardest. The sound of the alarm felt like mockery, and the sunlight piercing through the curtains only reminded me that I had to keep pretending. In front of others, I put on a face that seemed fine, but inside, I knew part of me was broken and I didn't know how to fix it. I finally decided to go to therapy. It wasn't an easy decision. It felt like announcing to the world that I had lost. But I knew that if I kept letting my mind run unchecked, the dark whispers that had always stayed in the corner of my heart could end up taking over completely. That day, I sat in the clinic's waiting room. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. The cold from the AC bit into my skin. And occasionally, the squeak of a photocopier came from behind the receptionist's desk. The hard plastic chair I sat on made it impossible to feel comfortable, forcing me to shift around every so often. My hands gripped my phone tightly, my thumbs scrolling aimlessly through the screen, just to avoid staring blankly at the white wall in front of me. That small world inside the screen was a brief escape from the chaos spinning in my head. Suddenly, the light in front of me was blocked. I looked up, slightly startled, and saw a man standing there. His hair was a bit messy, his eyes carrying a controlled confidence, and on his face was a smile that felt practiced. A smile that seemed like he had often used it to start conversations with strangers. "Can I get your Snapchat?" he asked casually, then mentioned his name, Jack. My body tensed up reflexively. This was the first time a stranger had approached me that quickly, especially in a place like this. He wasn't the type I had imagined would catch my interest. Not that he was unattractive, just not in line with the picture I had in my head. But there was something in his gaze, in the way his smile seemed to cut through my defenses, that made me nod slightly before I had time to think it over. A few minutes later, my name was called. I got up, briefly glanced at him, then stepped into the doctor's office. The session felt short, even too short for all the things I wanted to tell. As soon as I got out, I hadn't even turned the car key when my fingers were already opening Snapchat, typing my first message to him. It felt strange, a small step I hadn't planned at all, but enough to make my heart beat faster than it had in the past few months. For almost a week after that brief meeting at the clinic, we talked every day. His messages came with a calm rhythm, never feeling demanding, mornings before I left for work, afternoons when the sun began to sink, or nights before sleep. Our conversations were light, almost trivial, talking about the unpredictable weather, favorite foods, movies he had just watched. There were no overly deep personal questions, no tone that made me feel I needed to be on guard. He never asked for photos, or pushed the conversation in an inappropriate direction. For someone who had kept herself tightly closed off for so long, conversations like that felt like a breath of fresh air, after being shut in a stuffy room for months. When he finally asked me to meet, I hesitated at first, but then I chose the busy city park. I knew that place well, the winding gravel paths between shady trees, the earthy scent mixed with the smell of roasted corn from street vendors, and the laughter of children running across the grass. Every detail gave me a sense of safety. I arrived first, and found him sitting on a picnic bench, his back slightly hunched, hands resting on his knees, like he was waiting for his turn in a serious game. When our eyes met, he smiled widely and stood up. We waved, then shared a brief hug, no more than a few seconds, but warm enough to make me believe that my judgment of him so far might have been right. We walked along the gravel path. The stones creaked softly beneath our shoes, our steps in rhythm with the conversation that flowed without pause. He talked about his work, and I replied with snippets from my day. There was no awkward silence, no moment that felt wrong, until, without realizing it, we reached a quieter area, near the public restrooms at the edge of the park. I was still talking when he suddenly grabbed my hand. His movement was quick, like a reflex already planned. In an instant, the palm of my hand was forced against the rigid, tense part of his body. My body froze. My mind went blank. All sounds, the laughter of children, the rustling of leaves, even the sound of my own feet seemed to vanish, replaced by the pounding of my heartbeat, too loud in my ears. He stared at the restroom door. His eyes changed. There was no friendliness left, only something urgent that made the air around me feel heavy. In a low, heavy voice, he urged me to come inside. I refused, trying to keep my tone flat, as if I could control him, but he didn't back down. A thin smile formed on his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Beautiful," he whispered softly, before pulling my body close and pressing his lips to mine, without permission, without giving me a chance to turn away. The push I made to get away felt almost useless when his fingers clutched the belt loops of my pants with a force that kept me from taking even half a step back. His pull was rough, urgent, as if he was certain he could drag me wherever he wanted. The pressure of his fingers cut through the fabric, sending sharp pain stabbing into my skin. I brushed his hand away, struggling with all the strength I had. Every jerk felt like fighting a moving wall, unmoving no matter how hard I pushed. My breathing was rapid, hot, and shallow, and in the fraction of a second that stretched on, my body moved faster than my mind. My feet pivoted, my step leapt forward, then I ran. The evening air hit my face, cold stabbing into my lungs, making my chest feel hot and tight. My heartbeat pounded loudly in my ears, drowning out every other sound, the laughter of children, the rustle of the wind, the bustle of the park, as if the world had stopped. I held my breath, not daring to look back. A chilling fear ran down my spine, afraid to see who was following me, afraid to meet the eyes filled with certainty. Every step felt heavy. Every second could determine whether I would get away or be caught. My car appeared at the edge of my vision, like the only point of light in the thick fog. I grabbed the door handle with trembling hands, almost dropping the keys. The door swung open. I hurried inside and locked it with a click that sounded more comforting than any words. The car keys vibrated in my fingers as I pressed the starter button. No footsteps chased me, no shouting, just silence, too neat, as if what had just happened never existed. Whether he stopped because he saw someone else, or for a reason I would never know, and perhaps never want to know. I drove without direction, letting streetlights and turns decide where I would go. Only when the neon glow of a gas station appeared on my right did I pull over. My hands were still shaking as I reached for my phone. A few quick taps, block his contact on Snapchat, delete all conversations, and only then could I take a slightly deeper breath. It felt like cutting an invisible rope that had been choking me all this time. For months after that day, I lived at a distance. Strangers' gazes felt like the edge of a knife. Others' smiles like masks hiding something dark. I withdrew, not because I wanted to, but because I was afraid. Until one day, a few months later, I met someone different, someone who patiently showed me that not everyone was the same. But that day, in the busy city park, still marked a point in my mind, that someone could seem polite, speak sweetly, and in an instant, become something you would never imagine.